10 tips for how to grow tomatoes in hot weather.
Grow heat-tolerant varieties. Everglades tomatoes do great in Florida, but search for heat-tolerant varieties that grow well in your grow zone. Tip 2. Grow small tomatoes. Grow tomatoes such as Everglades, cherry, and grape varieties. Pest pressure is high in the heat of summer, and if you grow small tomatoes, there's a greater chance that you'll get them before the pests do. Tip 3. Leave volunteer tomatoes. Look at this one, it's coming up in the middle of a bunch of hibiscus, but we're leaving it because it wants to be there. This grape tomato decided to grow in the middle of a pot full of still hibiscus. The results are coming up slowly, but we got grape tomatoes. This tomato decided to go right at the bottom of a citrus tree. It's doing great. Just keeps on growing up using the banana tree as a trellis. In fact, there are 3 different tomato plants growing from this large pot with citrus, which is because we use compost. These are not quite ready yet, but take a look at those. Volunteer tomatoes. If you're wondering whether leaving the volunteer tomatoes will hurt the host plants, I don't think so. And look at this tomato that has seated itself at the bottom of a Barbados cherry tree, and the Barbados cherry tree is just blooming. Beautiful. And tomatoes are producing, giving us new clusters every day. So just leave those volunteer tomatoes. They decided they wanted to grow there. They have a great environment. Why not just leave them be and let nature do its thing? Tip 4. Plant the tomato seeds where you want them to grow. Do not transplant tomatoes that are supposed to grow in the middle of the summer. These Everglades tomatoes have been planted in nursery pots in a front yard where we have full sun. It's been 98 degrees, 96 degrees for days, and they're just doing tremendously. We also have tomatoes planted from seed directly into the ground at the land, and they do much better than any of the ones that we transplant. So if you can, plant directly into the soil where you want them to grow. Tip 5 for how to grow tomatoes in the heat of summer. Use banana peel water to encourage flowering and thereby fruit set in the summer. All you need to do is eat a banana, stick the peel in a jar with water for 2 to 3 days so it can ferment, and water your tomatoes with it, just like this. Ah, the lizard. You can find instructions for how to use fruit peels as fertilizers at our website, deltatreetuff.com. But it's very simple, and we use this in the beginning of the season and in the heat of summer. Tip 6. Water low, water deep, and water in the morning and in the evening. You want to water low so that you do not get water on the leaves every day, as that can create the perfect feeding ground for diseases. And you water deep to encourage root set deep in the ground, and you water in the morning and the evening to ensure that the water doesn't evaporate and that it actually gets to the roots and stays there for a while. Tip 7. Remove diseased and dead leaves. And don't be afraid to pull any dead plants or diseased plants if they get too much. Just get rid of them. You have no more need for them. Make sure they don't spread diseases to other plants. These tomato plants grow below a passion fruit vine, and we also have some growing below the Titonia, the Mexican sunflower, because we can cut them down in the spring when we want the plants to get sun, and then they grow up and give us shade in the summer. These tomatoes grow in full sun from about 10 to 1, but then they're shaded by the salad tree, the bougainvillea, the banana leaves, and so it's not full exposure all day, and that's what they like. Sun, but not full sun 8 hours a day. Tip 9, fertilize with compost and organic fertilizers. We'll have a link to the fertilizers we use at densitylif.com. And finally, tip 10 for how to grow tomatoes in the heat of summer: mulch. Mulch your plants heavily. Cover up the roots, and as they grow, they'll start sending roots further up in the plant. Just cover it up. And not only will the roots get better protection, you will also fertilize the plants, and you'll protect them from the sun and retain water better.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and visit us at dancingtreetop.com.